Hi there, I'm the Complex Games Apologist, and today I'm going to talk to you about my impressions of a role-playing game system which is a little bit on the lighter side, called Ubiquity. You may have heard of several of the deployments of this game, like Leagues of Adventure, or Hollow Earth Expedition, or All for One, Regime Diabolique. The one that I've been playing recently is Hollow Earth Expedition, which is a 1930s archaeological pursuit. Nazis and Zeppelins and communists and the hunt for supernatural artifacts which may lead to the realm of dinosaurs and lost civilizations, the Hollow Earth itself. There's pulpy characters, the stuff of cinema, and of course, a place where Indiana Jones would feel right at home. And I think that the game is very successful at portraying this genre. Let's go with it. So to start with, let's talk about the gears and the inner workings of this system. It's a dice pool system not unlike classic World of Darkness in that you add together your attribute and your skill to get a number of dice to roll. It's two-sided dice, as in one side is a success and the other not. And the really interesting thing, and the best part, the part that's my favorite, is that there's a lot of care and thoughtfulness put into what does a particular number mean. So if you have a skill level of 1, this means that you might be someone who's frequently bamboozled, or that just basic emotions seem to bounce off of them. And if you have a dice pool of 8, then you have penetrating insights as an investigator. And the rulebook really goes out of its way to be very clear and concise about what these mean, and to ground the numbers in the genre. And that gives you a really distinct feeling of what kind of character you're creating. The next thing about using two-sided dice, which you'll probably be using, your ordinary dice collection, probably going for evens or odds or halfway up the die or whatever way your table decides to use two-sided dice, is that your brain has a very intuitive sense of the probability. So if you get 2 more dice added into your pool, it's increasing your probability by 2 orders of magnitude. Likewise, if the difficulty increases by 2, then your chance of success has been quartered. It's as simple as that, really. And it leads to a real immediacy as the player when you pick up those dice, and when you spend style points, which I think is really at the core of what makes this system so effective at portraying genre, and what makes it so fun. And we'll get to that in just a moment. Let's talk about how easy and simple character generation is first. The first thing to say about it is that there's a shorter list of skills and abilities, kind of core attributes, than you might be used to. So, for example, Constitution and Strength have been lumped into one, and there's just a few of these, and then there's no point buying according to a table. It's just put points into attributes, and you're done. Go. And the same goes for skills. It's a much more short list of skills than you may be used to from games in the World of Darkness. And I think this means that it's a lot easier for the game master and for you to make a guess about what an intended action, which skill that intended action will use. And so this makes the game that much more fast playing. Another core component of the system that I think really fits with the two-sided die ethos and aesthetic is that the game encourages you to take the average some of the time, to just let it ride based on what half of your dice pool is, because half of your dice are going to roll successes half of the a good amount of the time. And this leads to a lot of situations where the karma on your character sheet, sort of what your character's abilities really mean, see you through a challenge without resorting to the dice. And it's affirmative to the investments that you've made in your character. It's a lot of fun, in my opinion, and also leaves you confident when you're making moves in the connective tissue parts of the game between action scenes. But the real heart of what makes this game distinct, its brand, this specialness, at the heart of it is style. This is where the en-genre behavior from characters starts to come together. You buy additional dice by spending style points. You start with 3 of them. And you get more by playing to your character's motivation or flaws. Each die buys an extra die too, and you can spend more than one of them at once to really get a strong edge. Now this is another place where the real thoughtfulness and care of the definitions gets played up, because The motivations and the flaws have pretty clear triggers. Now, I do have a few quibblings about how some motivations seem a lot harder to get style from than others, likewise with flaws, but my two characters that I've been playing, one of them has overconfidence, which manifests as a feeling that everything is going to be fine. We're going to get ourselves into a mess, but the unseen hand that rewards good people in the universe is going to come through for us. It's going to work out just fine. And I get style when I find myself in over my head and regretting that. My other character is a divorced socialite, someone who's married to someone like Howard Hughes, and she's very condescending. She's lost her empathy for other people, and she's not afraid to tell you that you're beneath her notice. And, well, that gets her some style, and that causes problems, and just in general, when she's interacting with people. It's easy to play to that, and it kind of fulfills a cinematic trope that those of us who remember older movies are quite familiar with. I can see the likes of Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn playing the characters that I'm playing. And it's a lot of fun. The same goes for resources and talents. You can get abilities that swap out where your defense for your character in combat might come from, and so you could be using your diplomacy as defense. No, don't hurt me, don't hurt me! And my socialite character has resources. She has a vast wealth, which can be translated into other talents, which are really cool, on a temporary basis, or it just means that she's rich, and it can find a seaplane for our group to continue pursuing the way into the Hollow Earth. Nazis, dinosaurs, zeppelins, biplanes, dinosaurs, ancient artifacts, archaeology, larger-than-life people, cinema, and pulpy action. That's what I would describe this system as. It's a little bit fast, and it's a lot lighter. And there are some things that I have to say about the combat system that leave me a little bit wanting as far as the menu of options, and how it seems like guns really are very good. Because essentially there's no damage roll, and guns get extra dice based on how big of a gun you're shooting. So this means that there's the difficulty for shooting, and then there's the difficulty for doing everything else. But shooting has more dice. Now, I think in actual play, my game masters have been very mindful about this, and it hasn't turned into any kind of issue. And I'm also doing a lot of risk-taking and style earning when I do things that aren't relating to guns. So it's not like it's a real problem, it's just less intuitive for me because I find myself trying to use suppressing fire, trying to get out of situations, or just trying to fast talk. And things like that seem a little bit less clear about the difficulty. And the truth of it is that I find this game to be sort of a little bit old school. The Game Master has a lot more control over the circumstances, and the Game Master is ultimately interpreting intent in a fast and free-flowing way, which reminds me a lot of traditional games. Hollow Earth Expedition, however, has the thoughtful and meaningful design. There's not much there that doesn't need to be, and that's why I'm enjoying it for what it is. It's not the sort of game that I would have chosen to run for myself or my group, but at the same time, I'm envisioning a cool adventure where the player characters are in 1930s Venice. Mussolini's fascists are after them, and they are hunting down a scroll in the archives of some Catholic cathedral deep in the heart of the city of canals. When they find it, they take off on a seaplane, rushing towards Lake Victoria in the heart of Africa to try and retrieve an artifact from the Great Zimbabwe, which may open a gateway to another realm, whose secrets might determine the balance in the Great War to come. Or it could just be a lot of fun, zany action. Hollow Earth Expedition and Ubiquity System get a thumbs up from me. I'm the Complex Games Apologist.